On this episode, we'll work on a 1976 Sears Free Spirit Mono Shock, getting it ready for vintage BMX racing, coming up soon at Frogtown Classic BMX Days. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to get Anthony in here because this video was recorded actually last summer when I first started working on this Huffy Mono Shock. And I intended to race it out at Frogtown, which I talk about in the video, in the stock class. As it turned out, Anthony decided to race in the stock class and I decided to race at Frogtown in the modified class. I'm going to let Anthony talk about what happened next.
Well, actually, the first year that I raced it, that I was at Frogtown, was in 2023. And not only is the bike laid out perfectly, it rides wonderfully, but the only problem was we didn't have a chain tensioner on it. So in every race, all three of my motos, I was in first place, had a good lead, and by the last corner, the chain would pop, and I pushing the bike, and I would get passed by someone. So it ended up being kind of a failure and a success. The bike rode perfectly. I was quick on it. It handled good, but the chain just didn't stay on. So it was time to go back to the operating room or the laboratory or basically the bike shop.
Yeah, and I felt really bad too because that was 2023 at Frogtown, and I had my red Huffy in the modified class. And Anthony's chain came off while he was leading that first moto on this bike. And I said, gosh, Anthony, that's too bad, man. And then the second time it happened to him, I really felt like a horrible mechanic. And then my third race on my red bike, my chain fell off. So at that point, we knew that the Huffies had a serious problem. So after the problems we had in 2023, we figured out that these Huffies really need chain tensioners. And we went to a few other races after I had put chain tensioners on my bike and Anthony put one on his bike. But then we got that figured out with the chain tensioners. We got it dialed in. And then Anthony took this bike out to Frogtown again in 2024, this year, and kind of redeemed himself. So talk about that.
Well, let me tell you, it was, I was a little nervous. You know, I didn't know exactly. When I first got there, I'll be honest with you, there was a chain tensioner on it. Tim had put it on, and when I would go back to touch the brakes, the chain would loosen up. So I'm worried, okay, this chain's going to pop off. So actually, a friend of ours was there, Ian.
Ian, yeah.
And he did a little work on the bike, changed the configuration a bit, and the chain stayed on. When you went back on the brakes, the chain didn't loosen up. So I thought, okay, this is the time. We're going to see if this works. First moto went around, no problem. Good start, good lead. So I'm happy. You know, I'm counting daisies. Second moto, same thing. Great lead, no problems. Chain wasn't popping off. It was staying together. I was excited. I'm like, okay, I just got to do it one more time. And thank God, went around one more time and I was able to bring a first place home from Frogtown. And that's what I got the first year.
That's what he got the first year, even with the chain coming off.
With the chain coming off. And this is what I got with the chain staying on the bike. Yeah. So it's exciting. It's wonderful. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't rode a coaster brake bike in 45 years as far as racing. And just getting used to touching the brake or tapping the brake without locking it up took a little bit of time. But once you ride it, like they say, it's just like riding a bike. Yep. You don't forget.
Absolutely. Cool. Yep. I've been really excited about these Huffy Mono Shocks ever since I saw Mike Savage racing out at Dirty Fest in April in California. And he was just absolutely screaming and flying on these things. He's got a... like the classic black and gray. I think that was the first year of the Huffy Mono Shock. And he's got it converted for racing, you know, with disc brake and a free wheel and shorter forks and he's just got that bike really dialed in, and he just hauls ass on it. My friend Anthony Chambers and I went to Texas Classic BMX Days down near San Antonio back in June. And I had converted a Webco Mono Shock kind of in the same manner that Mike did his Huffy, with kind of the same treatments. And Anthony had a Huffy Mono Shock that he brought and got ready. The short story is Anthony almost won on that bike. And I liked my Webco, but it was still very short. The top tube was very short, and I really wanted to get a hold of a Huffy. So between then and now, I've found a few Huffy Mono Shocks to tinker with. So this bike, I had never seen before. I had no idea that Sears had a Free Spirit Mono Shock that was basically the same as a Huffy Mono Shock. It's the same frame. I also have a blue one, and the blue one was sold in like Ace Hardware and True Value hardware stores. It's baby blue. But the yellow one I had never seen, and I saw it on Facebook Marketplace a couple of weeks ago down in Kansas City. Met up with the woman who owned it. She really didn't want to part with it because it brought back childhood memories. Apparently, she and her brother both got these in 1976. My good fortune is that she really didn't ride it much, and it kind of sat in a basement, so even the tires aren't cracked. And you know, always when you find a bike this old, the tires are cracked. So the tires aren't cracked, the seat's not torn, the frame is scuffed up here and there, the wheels are a little bit rusty. Other than that, I mean, this is in incredible survivor condition. So I've already got a Huffy Mono Shock converted for Frogtown Classic BMX Days, and it's ready to go. In the meantime, I found out that they have split the suspension class into two categories. One, they're calling it modified, and in the modified class, you can have more modern cranks, you can have a freewheel, you can have handbrakes. But now they're also going to have a stock class, which I think is a wonderful idea. You have to have a coaster brake, and it has to be not modified. So when I found this bike, I was thrilled because the wheels actually have heavy-duty spokes, 105 gauge spokes. I've never seen that before on one of these. So I'm just going to race with these wheels. I'm going to clean them up real well and polish them up, true the wheels, tighten the spokes. The other Huffy Mono Shocks that I found have this like single stem, like a quill stem, and actually it's not as good as a Nash Tabula stem. It's kind of like just stamped steel. And I remember as a kid, like the first thing that would break when we jumped these bikes, the stem would twist and bend. And the bars are real funky. They pitch backwards. You know, they had the bend is like completely wrong for riding and racing. So I was really happy when I got this bike because it has a double clamp stem. And I remember seeing these. I can't say that it's bulletproof because it probably isn't, because it is on a Huffy, but it's a lot beefier than the other ones. And it's, you know, it kind of looks like a Mongoose Gold stem. You know, it's not the same, obviously, but I think it's going to hold up fine. And the bars are wide, and the bend isn't quite as drastic. So I think I'm just going to keep the bars and stem just like they are. We'll do a few other things. If you notice, I've talked about this in previous videos about Huffy Mono Shocks. The weird thing about these bikes is the front end sits up high, and it's got like a 5-inch or 5¼ inch. Actually, it's a 5.5 inch head tube. So that's weird. Most head tubes are 4 inches. So the other thing is, and I finally figured out why they did this, it's got like a almost a 24-inch cruiser length in the fork blades. Not quite. It's a little bit shorter than a 24-inch. It's like a 1/2 inch shorter. And I think the only reason they did that is so they could fit this fender in here. So, you know, I hate to let the fender go. Actually, after I'm done racing this bike, I'm going to put it back together exactly how it sits for my collection. But in the meantime, we're going to put in a 20-inch BMX fork, and I was able to find some with a long steer tube. Actually, I have to cut it down about an inch. It's going to drop the front end lower and make it better handling. And yeah, I'm just afraid to ride on any kind of track or jump it with these forks, because I remember as a kid, I saw kids riding these things and the forks were like twanged out, completely, completely bent, and that's unsafe. I'm also going to switch up the cranks. Now these cranks are actually 6.5 inches, which is about 165 millimeter, and they appear to be heavy, more heavy duty than the other Huffy versions, which had like 145 millimeter cranks, which is way too short. But still, for me, 165s are too short, and I have these vintage Sagino chromoly cranks that I've been waiting to put on a bike, and complete with a gold 44 tooth Takagi chainring and a Takagi spider. And this is going to be a good home for these cranks. So tonight the process begins. We're going to turn this into a very fun vintage racing mono shock. Let's go. After installing the cranks, I took a look at this overnight and I thought it just doesn't look retro enough. And then I realized that the stock Huffy sprocket is 44 tooth. So I'm just going to swap out the original chain wheel and I'll have a 44/16 and I'll retain that original look.
One of the most exciting things that we didn't even mention was there was a Huffy bike show, and this was in 2023, and we entered. Tim entered 2 of his bikes. I entered 1 of mine, and we were lucky enough. Tim got first place, I got second, and Tim got third. So we actually got first, second, and third with our Huffies in the Huffy bike show.
We have a whole stack of awards back here, but we're just showing you the firsts.
Yeah. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah.
And these open up. You want to open it up?
Yeah, they open up really cool. And actually, this one, okay, so I wasn't able to go to Frogtown in 2024, but I sent my Huffy, 2 of my Huffies with Anthony. So a Huffy took first in the Huffy bike class division at Frogtown in 2023. And we also took first, this bike took first this year in 2024 as well. So we're really stoked about these Huffies, not only racing them, but, you know, fixing them up and putting them in shows too.
And the thing that's so crazy about it is, you know, back in the beginning, you know, we kind of laughed at Huffies, but I really did own a Huffy Mono Shock back in the 70s. I mean, I had other bikes, but I owned a Huffy Mono Shock, and I loved the Mono Shock. It actually, I could ride it, I could jump it, I could do anything on it. And for that to come back around full circle, and I'm 61 years old now, riding the same bike, having a good time, it's amazing. You got to try it at least once. You'd love it.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to Radmattic. We have more clunker and BMX bikes in the shop ready to work on. Also, check out our Super Rad BMX podcast here on Radmattic. You can also find Super Rad BMX podcast on all the best podcast platforms. Hey Radmattic fans, check out radmattic.com for cool BMX and cycling t-shirts and apparel. We have plenty to choose from, with more in development. Celebrate the vintage days of BMX racing. Proudly display your enthusiasm for all things BMX and cycling. Each shirt comes in multiple colors and sizes. Buying shirts at radmattic.com is one way you can help support this channel. Until next time, stay rad and keep doing it in the dirt.